If you were an elderly pensioner slowly coming to the end of your lifetime, what would you spend your time doing? Shuffling around cruise ships perhaps? Visiting your grandchildren? Playing the crossword in the newspaper? Or like the guy we're talking about today, playing F1 2020 My Team career mode? In real life. That's right, instead of playing Sudoku, 54-year-old Ryuji Kumita spends his time running a race team and hammering around a racetrack wearing the colours at the same time, going by the name of Dragon. But why? Well, that's why I'm here today, to take you through the relatively short story of Ryuji Kumita, Dragon. Now this video will probably be a short one, and the reason why is the lack of visual content about him. As you'll have seen from the intro video, that was instead scenic footage of Dragon's home country, Japan, and the reason for all this is if you search up Dragon, you'll be met by what you'd expect. And if you search up his actual name, Ryuji Kumita, you'll find one 10-second clip of him crashing, and a grand total of 7 pictures of him, meaning the visual part of this video will probably end up being random onboards or something. Anyway, Ryuji Kumita started life in Yokohama, Kanagawa on the 25th of January 1967, Kanagawa being the same neck of the woods Yuki Tsunoda is from, and up until 2010 Ryuji was just your average man. However, in 2010 he then founded his racing team, BMAX Racing, a team competing in a variety of Asian motorsports over the years, although most notably Super Formula and Super GT. Ryuji then started his racing career at a young age of 46, racing for his own team in the 2013 Japanese Formula 3 Championship, and in a championship up against a whole heap of nobody, he finished last, but to be honest it wasn't really expected for him to finish anywhere else, being 46 years old and having never driven a race car before. In this championship there were 12 cars, and he had a best finish of 9th, in a lot of races actually finishing 12th, so needing to be P6 for points. Dragon scored 0 points this year. He would then return to Japanese Formula 3 in 2014, where out of the 15 drivers, he finished second last. He still didn't manage to score a point, but he managed to beat Motoyoshi Yoshida. However, Yoshida was 10 years older than Dragon was, so it was more like beating your grandpa in a running race. 2015 again brought him no joy, not managing to beat anybody under the age of 40, and Masaru Miura, one of the 3 drivers and the only full-time driver he beat, didn't even have a driver database page. So who knows about him? For 2016 and 17, he continued his streak of not scoring a point, but this time decided to race in Formula 3 and Formula 4, and here I discovered he wasn't the only driver racing under a nickname, with Yugo and Tsuji being on the grid as well for whatever reason. However, in 2018 he finally opted for a bit of change, still racing in Japanese F3, but he raced in 3 rounds of the Asian Formula 3 Championship and driven the Macau Grand Prix. And in Japanese F3 he of course didn't score a point, but he beat someone, one person, Australian Jake Parsons, although Jake won the national class, but there was a reason for that. He was the only driver in the national class. In Asian F3 he came close to points in race 1 of Shanghai, but as you know, our boy, or old man if you prefer, Ryuji didn't score a point, and finished 23rd of 26 drivers. The drivers behind I hadn't heard of at all. Dunno, perhaps you know Teruku Yamaguchi, Thomas Luetti or Zheng Jianyan. But then came his Macau Grand Prix campaign. Arguably the first time he was actually racing talent, with drivers such as Callum Wylott, Guan Yu Zhou, Dan Ticktum, Mick Schumacher, Robert Schwartzman and Sophia Flörsch. Wait, sorry, I meant talent. Well, as you'd expect, he was driving for his own team, lining himself up against fellow Japanese driver Yuhi Sakaguchi and Alex Palou, where his qualifying performance was some of the slowest driving I have ever seen. After crashing in practice, in Q1, Dan Ticktum's fastest lap was a 2:11.004. Dragon's best lap was a 2:24.135, missing the 110% time by a solid second and a half. Yes, Dan Ticktum was a driver less than half the age and racing professionally, but Kumita was 5 seconds off the man in second last, Yoshiaki Katayama. I'm sorry, but you couldn't have wasted a race seat any worse. Like, this performance made De Leder and Raghunathan look like Hamilton and Schumacher. Anyway, starting from P28, in the quali race he made it up to 23rd. Good, right? No, 23rd out of the 23 finishing drivers, and a whopping minute and a half behind the man in second last, Ukyo Sasahara, and 2 minutes behind the leader. The main race was as you'd expect, however this time managing to avoid the carnage, he was only a minute behind second last. Great performance. 2019, like usual, he competed in Japanese 3 and 4 and then 1 round of Asian F3, where as you'd expect, decent results are non-existent. Before 2020, where he went all new again, racing the new Super Formula Light Lights Championship and the Formula Regional Japan Series. Super Formula Lights had some of the best Japanese up-and-coming talent, so as you'd expect, that meant that Dragon had no chance of anything, wherein the 8 drivers who competed all the rounds, one of those being him, he came in 7th place in the championship, beating Masayuki Ueda, however he was even older than Kumita, being 60 years old at the time of racing. I won't make another unfunny age joke. And then Formula Regional Japan, where he finished 6th in the championship. No, you didn't hear that wrong. Ryuji Kumita finished 6th in the championship. However, obviously there is a catch to that. The catch being that there was an average of 8 drivers on the grid every race, and needing to be P10 for points, Dragon scored 76 points in the season, P6 in the championship. Which is a shame because I now can't rant about the fact that he hasn't scored a racing point in his whole career. In 2021 he's competing in Super Formula Lights, and in round 1 in Fuji, I say he was close to the points, but of the 12 drivers racing he was 10th overall in the 3 races at Fuji, so no results, as you'd expect. Now after these relatively painful 8 years I've gone through, it's brought me to 2 big questions. Question 1, why on earth are there so many drivers in Japanese junior formula over the age of 45? And the second one is why has he continued racing despite these terrible results and old age? Now the first question I genuinely don't know anymore, but the second one could be down to 3 reasons I've come up with. He could be racing just because he enjoys racing, which could be the case, but if I had results like that, I'm not sure I keep going for 8 years, so kudos to him if that's it. Reason 2 could be that he can't find drivers for his team, which would explain his pattern of what series he's racing in, and that could explain the first question as well. And reason 3 is some reason known to no one on earth, but at least he's left the actually good seats in his team for professionals, hiring drivers like Nobuharu Matsushita in Super Formula instead of a random pensioner. So leave a comment down below about what you think about this guy. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. But with that, I'm Daniel. Have a nice day.